Ever wondered what a day inside a Spanish treasure galleon actually feels like? You wake before dawn in the ship's belly. Tar stings your nose. Damp wood leaks salt. Frames groan. A lantern throws ribs of light across stacked silver, and men curled around rosaries. The bell strikes. A voice cuts. Up hands. This isn't romance. It's discipline keeping you alive, breath measured, under a fortune heavy enough to drown you. Ready to climb from the hold and face the age of sail as it was? You are not on a lone hero ship. You are one rib in the body of an empire. Spaniards call it the Carrera de Indias, the great route that ferries silver from the New World and goods from Asia to Europe. Your galleon is built to carry treasure, high-sided, full-bellied, escorted, because a single hull can tilt a kingdom. 2 oceans feed this machine. In the Pacific, the Manila galleon stitches Manila to Acapulco, hauling Chinese silk, porcelain, and spices east, sailing back heavy with Mexican silver. In the Atlantic, the flota gathers off Veracruz and Portobelo, then stands for Havana to form a shielded mass bound for Cadiz. Your day belongs to this rhythm of convoys, signals, and shared risk. Alone you are prey. Together you are a shield of hulls. Storm season is not poetry, it's math. Hurricanes stalking the Bahama Channel, typhoons fattened by warm water, groundings on hidden bars, leaks that start as whispers and end as coffins, and men with letters of marque or none. Dutch captains who fight like merchants with broadsides, English privateers who live for the chase, Barbary corsairs ranging the eastern Atlantic and Canaries for slaves and ransom. They hunt the edges, the straggler, the ship that loses a mast or nerve. Disease is the oldest enemy aboard. Scurvy loosens teeth before discipline loosens. Dysentery turns the bilge into a grave. Fever crawls through hammocks without a sound. A convoy spreads risk across hull. Sickness spreads across breath. Cold truth. This was logistics as warfare. Commerce under siege. Survival by system, not luck. You live by the bell. 4 hours on, 4 off, with split watches so the same souls don't freeze at the same midnight. When the bell speaks, you move, not because someone asks, but because the ship breathes on that rhythm. You start in the dark where the ship sweats, at the pumps, hands on long handles, thighs braced, lantern swinging. The bilge answers with a brown, oily cough. You and another heave, trade breath, trade blisters, until the stream thins and the boards stop whispering about drowning. Salt is already on your tongue, and the sun is still a rumor. Up the ladder, the air sharpens. Rigging waits like a black web against gray. You climb because someone must. Ratlines bite your feet. Tar slicks your palm. The mast hums with a wind that crossed an ocean to find you. Out on the yard you crawl like a cat, toes clawed to the spar, canvas slatting your ribs. You ease lines, take a turn, splice a frayed heart of hemp with your teeth, and feel the ship surge when the sail draws clean. The boatswain's call pierces, bright and merciless, and every answer on deck snaps taut. Then the deck demands its penance. Buckets fly, sand grinds. Brushes rasp in long punishing strokes. You scrub because rot is patient. A sloppy coil today becomes a noose in tomorrow's squall. Lines flaked into neat sleeping snakes. The carpenter taps seams like a doctor listening for fever. The caulker drives oakum. The purser counts casks with the smile of a closed door. You steal a swallow of water that tastes of wood and iron and wish it were wine, then wish the wish had stayed unsaid. The guns wait under their tarpaulins like tethered wolves. You pull the covers, feel the cold iron, and fall into the drill beaten into you until it sits where your breath sits. Worm, sponge, cartridge, wad, shot, ram run out. Breeching's tight. Tackles clear, vents pricked. No powder today, not yet, but your ears still ring with thunder and the gun captain's bark. You learn to move as a machine moves. Quick hands, safe hands, no heroics, no mistakes. Powder is prayer dry in the magazine below, where no flame lives and every motion is careful as a surgeon's. All the while, discipline walks the length of the ship like a shadow with boots. A late hand earns the worst duty. A thief earns the rope. A drunk meets the cat. You watched a man lashed to the grating once, and you did not forget the sound, not the breathless noise he made, not the quiet after. Orders are the weather inside the hull, and defiance is a storm you won't survive. You tuck your shirt, coil your line, touch the amulet at your neck, and pretend you don't. In the slack between bells, you lean on a rail that shines with salt and sweat, and look outward, because every eye does. The horizon is a thin blade, the sky a lid, and, somewhere under your feet, a mountain of silver groans with the ship's slow pulse. The bell speaks again. You answer. The day doesn't change. It deepens. You learn, by the ache in your hands, that survival here is not one moment of courage, but 1,000 small obediences repeated until the ocean lets you pass. This isn't a tavern at sea. This is fuel rationed by rule. Breakfast is a fist of hardtack that could chip a tooth. You tap it first, always, to chase out the weevils. The biscuit tastes of flour and age, and the sweat of hands that baked it months ago. If you're lucky, there's a ladle of burgoo, oats boiled into paste that clings to the spoon and sits like ballast in your gut. Salt beef arrives in gray slabs, strings of sinew, a brine-soaked memory of a cow. You chew until your jaw aches, then swallow with water that learned too much from its cask, flat, woody, quick to turn foul. Wine and aguardiente aren't luxuries. They're medicine and mask, a measured tot that cuts the slime from the tongue and keeps cask rot from winning. Some men save the measure for courage before a squall or a gun drill. Others trade it, liquid currency, in a world of wood and iron. Under the day's skin, scurvy works. Gums spongy, breath sour. Old scars reopening as if the sea remembered every wound. Teeth feel loose where nerves should be firm. The surgeon knows lancets and leeches better than lemons. Citrus is rumor this far from certain ports, so you take what you can. Tamarind from Manila if a clerk was wise. Onions when a harbor was kind. Vinegar by habit. Maybe sauerkraut when a German steward's taste reaches the slop chest. Greens from boiled herbs when land offers them. Spruce tip infusions belong to northern waters. Rare on your circuit, but a sailor collects cures like charms. Even so, men weaken, legs like wet rope. Dysentery mocks dignity. The head runs hot, the belly cold, and the bilge becomes a place of prayer. Fever prowls between hammocks, silent until it isn't. A rosary under a pillow, a charm at the wrist, the blue brush of St. Elmo's fire kept like a sign. Superstition is another ration. You cross yourself before the pump. You spit to turn luck. You never whistle aloft, because whistling calls wind, and wind called wrong is a curse. The galley is a furnace of salvation and insult. Copper kettles clang. Steam fogs the hatch. Pork fat can make a saint swear. Weevils float like dusk stars. You skim them without comment. Today peas soup, tomorrow peas soup. In the Pacific, rice if the purser's sums in Acapulco were generous. On feast days, the officers eat better. Fresh fowl, if any, survived in cages. Dried fruit from Seville. Oil that tastes like a story. You glance and look away. Your portion is measured by a rule book as old as the root. This isn't feasting. This is counting. The body treated as cargo, trimmed to survive the passage. You live day by rationed day, because habit is stronger than hunger, and because the ocean respects only men who respect their measures. You do not sail a ship. A ship sails you through its ranks. At the apex stands the captain, part warrior, part accountant, the crown's will wrapped in velvet and iron. He decides when to fight, when to flee, when to risk a bar with a belly full of silver. Beside him the master, old as rope, eyes full of weather, runs the ship itself, trim, ballast, sail, the stubborn grammar of wood. The pilot guards the secret geometry, latitude by sun, dead reckoning by log, and lead, the reefed map in his mind. When he speaks, the compass listens. Below, the voice that carries is the boatswain's. His whistle writes the day, hands aloft, hands to braces, hands to punishment. He owns the lines the way a priest owns a liturgy. The gunner rules the iron choir, measuring powder by the dram, nursing flints, drilling you until you dream in steps. Carpenter and caulker keep death on the far side of the planks. The purser, contador, counts everything that matters, bread, beef, candles, and your debt to both. There's order in prayer, too. The chaplain's bell marks Mass on Sundays, absolution before storms, burial sewn in canvas with a last stitch through the nose to be sure no man wakes under water. The surgeon, more saw than salve, keeps his knives sharp and his spirits sharper. The alguacil and master-at-arms make the articles breathe. No fire near the magazine. No steel drawn without cause. No gambling that ends in blood. No drunkenness when duty calls. Lights out means lights out. The hold is sealed like a promise, and you are a marinero among many. Above you stand the topmen who dance the sky, the quartermasters who keep the helm true, the timoneers who feel a ship's shiver through the tiller. Below you run the cabin boys, bare feet, bright eyes, carrying messages and scalded kettles, learning the ship's alphabet letter by bruise. Soldiers bunk between guns, hired to shoot when sailors must sail. Everyone answers to the same bell. Pay is silver on paper until land appears. Wages accrue by the month, shaved by stoppages, slops for clothes, fines for faults, advances you barely remember. Prize money glitters in rumor, parceled by rank if fortune smiles. That promise is tested soon enough. Promotion isn't poetry. It's scars and competence. A boatswain's nod, a pilot's trust when the sky has no stars. This isn't democracy. It's an engine tune so one voice can turn a forest of masts. Yet inside the gears you find a hard comfort. When the order rings, 100 hands move as one, and for a moment the ocean respects you. The first sign isn't a sail. It's a change in the ship's voice. Orders drop an octave. A whistle and drum call the crew to Zafarancho, clear for action. You look, and there, low and lean on the rim of the world, 2-3 lateen shadows cutting across the light. Corsairs, they don't want to sink you. They want your spars, your nerve, your silver. The convoy tightens. Flagship and rearguard speak with flags and gunshots. The shield of hulls draws in around the treasure, clear for action. Suddenly the galleon is a stripped fist. Hammocks up in the nettings to thicken the bulwarks. Buckets and sand on deck for footing and for blood. Fire tubs brimming by each gun. Ladders unshipped, boats secured. Galley fire doused. You pass powder from the magazine, each cartridge down a line of hands. Leather boxes shut, no sparks, no talk. In the lantern room, a single protected flame glows like a captured star. The master shortens to a fighting trim. Top gallants come in with one shiver. Braces set for a close-hauled run. Weather gauge is prayer, keep the wind. Make them climb, the gunners work like a clock. Bar and chain shot lie ready to chew rigging. Round shot for hull. Grape and langrage, nails, scrap, stones, for the breathless close. Breechings taut. Coin set checked again. The gun captain's palm is flat iron. Steady. Save your anger for 50 yards. Your body becomes a set of tasks. Match cord hisses. Your mouth is ash dry. Your hands too careful. Above topmen lace the sky, rigging preventer braces in case a line parts. Knives ready to free fouled sheets. The boatswain stretches boarding pikes along the nettings. Muskets and arquebuses come from their racks. Flint snapped, pans primed. A keg of grenados squats by the mainmast. The chaplain moves quietly, a thumb to a brow, a word for a shaking ear. No speeches, only nearness. They come in a crescent, oars biting, canvas tight. Their plan is older than charts. Cripple your spars with precision shot, rake you from stern to bow, then swarm the waist before your big guns can bear. The master refuses the script. "Wear ship," the helm answers. Your world tilts. Sails thunder. The galleon's beak yawns toward the nearest prow. The stern chasers bark first, thin, vengeful snaps, seeking a rudder, a forefoot. The enemy answers with smoke and splinters. A man beside you folds without a sound. You keep passing powder because the line doesn't stop for one voice. Now, range. Run out. Trucks scream. Iron mouths stare. Level. The deck holds its breath. Fire! The broadside isn't sound. It's weather, white light, recoil, a shove that empties your chest. Through the smoke you glimpse a mast leaning like a wounded bird. Chain shot has found a home. No cheers, work, sponge, ram again closer, grape now. The air turns to metal rain. Fear doesn't leave. It narrows. It becomes a tunnel in which you do exactly what you drilled 1,000 times. The lash once taught you to move without thinking. Today that lesson keeps you alive. Over the rail you see faces, scarves, teeth, eyes like coins. Then the nettings catch the first hooks, and the muskets speak, calm and terrible. A corsair's grenade tumbles, hisses in sand, dies under a boot. Hold your nerve, someone says, maybe to you, maybe to himself. You do because the ship demands it. Silence doesn't fall after battle. It leaks in, carried by smoke that tastes of iron. Orders soften from shouts to names. The drum stops. The sea remembers how to breathe. You look down, and the deck you scrubbed this morning is a geography of splinters, torn cordage, and small, vivid pools. Hammocks in the nettings hang pocked like old moons where shot tore through. A yard creaks like a broken bone. The ship is wounded, and so are her men, hands to repair. The carpenter's gang moves first, hunting mortal wounds, sprung planks, a seam weeping faster than the pumps can comfort, a splintered futtock. Oakum and tar arrive like vows. Shores wedged. The fathering mat readied. A sail smeared with dung and hair hauled under the hull to choke a leak from outside. Riggers climb into the after smoke, coughing, knives between teeth, bending new seizings, reeving preventers, fishing a cracked mast with spare spars and iron dogs. You heave on a tackle until your back is a bell rope, and the wounded yard rises, stubborn as a prayer that won't be denied. Below, the surgeon's realm is lit like a bad dream. His table is scrubbed but never clean. A kettle hisses. Saw, probe, cautery, needle. Wine for washing, aguardiente for mercy, a leather strap for truth. Men come in on doors and grates, faces young, hands already reaching for something to hold. You help carry a topman who fell when chain shot kissed his yard, Mateo, the cabin boy who ran your powder minutes ago. He is all ribs and grit, whispering to a rosary he keeps in his mouth so he won't lose it. The surgeon fingers a shattered ankle, eyes measuring the cut he hopes not to make. Hold him? You do. The blade is quick, the iron quicker. The room blooms with the smell of cooked cloth and courage. Mateo's breath stutters, then steadies. He may live, perhaps on one leg, that will learn the deck again. You tuck the rosary back into his palm. He sleeps as if dropped from a height. On deck, counts begin. Powder spent, shot remaining. Spars lost. Canvas torn. Men missing. The purser writes, "The master calculates what sail the ship can carry without inviting a second disaster." The chaplain reads for the dead, low and level over canvas-wrapped shapes, sewn shut with a last stitch through the nose, to be certain no man wakes beneath the sea. The splash is small, the silence larger. If the enemy is taken, perhaps today by your convoy's Almiranta, another ritual starts. A prize crew goes aboard to choke fires, douse the magazine, secure papers and flags. The captured hull is escorted under convoy law. Its fate will be sealed far away in courts that weigh ink like iron. Havana, Veracruz, Cadiz, the rooms of the Casa de la Contratación. Shares are numbers on a horizon. Captain and investors first, officers next, common hands last. But last isn't nothing when silver and salvage are measured by rule. Recaptured friendly ships earn salvage, a fraction of their value parceled by rank. Rumor outruns sail. What was in her hold? Grain? Silk? Men? Hope is counted, then folded and stowed like spare canvas, because storms don't read prize papers. By dusk the ship is smaller and stronger, wounded wood bandaged, running rig quiet again, guns swabbed and kissed back under tarpaulins. You wash the deck with sand and brine until it is only a deck again. The bell speaks for evening muster. Names are read. Answers come back with gaps shaped like men. The master nods once to the captain. The convoy breathes in unison, sets a night sail plan cautious as a surgeon's stitch, and the shield of hulls slides on. You taste smoke in your teeth. You taste survival. You learn a truth you won't forget. Battle is interruption. Repair is the profession. Land doesn't greet you with fanfare. It checks your pockets. The convoy hobbles into harbor under half sail. Havana, Veracruz, Acapulco, sometimes Portobelo, when the fares still breathe. Cannon salute the flag. Boats swarm like remoras. Earth smells close for the first time in months, and a dizziness rises that isn't wind. The anchorage fills with voices, stevedores shouting, muleteers bargaining, officials reciting regulations like prayers they half believe. The clock is money now. Unloading begins under royal eyes. scribes from the casa with hands blackened by ink that weighs more than iron. Silver chests move in chains of men, strong backs, soldiers, clerks counting aloud. Each bar is a promise to Europe. Each sealed crate a fuse for markets you will never see. Your share is muscle and patience. You guard, you heave, you wait, and the other economy walks in daylight. Smuggling isn't a secret duel. It's a dance everyone knows. A roll of silk tucked in a bread cask, a pouch of cochineal under salt pork, a manila fan beneath a cassock's hem. The rule is simple. Don't embarrass the rule. Bribes are oils. They make stiff gears move. A bottle of wine here, a handful of pesos there, first pick on a return cargo. The alguacil looks away because the system breathes through small leaks, and because his cousin's shop ashore lives on contraband smiles. You have hours only. Pay is tallied. Stoppages bite like a shark taking a flank. Slops for clothes, fines for faults, advances you barely remember. What remains is yours to turn into life. You hunt a tavern with a cool doorway and a wooden virgin over the bar. Wine first, then bread that cracks like a blessing, then meat that remembers sunlight. Your legs argue with the street. Noises carnival after monastic silence. Guitar, dice, a girl laughing in a language you thought you'd forgotten. You buy a small thing you can't afford, a ribbon, a knife, a charm carved from bone, because you need proof that color still exists. Then back aboard, because liberty ends when the tide says so. The purser curses delays. The master watches the sky for the next weather window across the Bahama Channel or out through the San Bernardino Strait. The chaplain counts men back over the gangway with a shepherd's stare. One drunk is dragged by his heels and will wake to the cat. Fresh water, fresh wood, livestock in crates, fruit bruised but sweet if season is kind. A barber ashore extracts a tooth for a real coin and a dirty rag. The surgeon pockets a pot of unguent and calls it medicine. You cast off at dusk. The port recedes, lights shivering on black. Behind you, accounts open and close like waves. Ahead, the same old arithmetic, sales, rations, discipline, luck. The ocean doesn't care what you spent or smuggled. It only asks if your knots hold. You return to where the day began. Tar in the nose, damp wood in the lungs, salt on the tongue, the hull breathing like a living thing. Now you know what the lantern's ribs of light were carving in the dark. Not romance, not legend. A machine of survival that runs on discipline, faith, and fear held short. This isn't freedom. It's duty measured by the bell. Not feasting. Rations and rot held at bay. Not glory. Work repeated until your hands forget how to be soft. From cliffs, a convoy looks invincible. Inside it, every hour is a wager, every knot a promise. Pause and listen. The mast hums. The sea whispers through the gratings. Somewhere a boy murmurs a prayer to a rosary worn smooth as a coin. Somewhere a captain weighs wind against risk, and an old master hears weather in the dark. The truth is simple and heavy. Crossing an ocean costs more than coin. It costs skin, teeth, sleep, and the small illusions that make land feel safe. You pay, and if you're lucky, the sea lets you arrive. So, myth or reality, which do you choose to live with? The painted legend that flatters courage, or the hard day that actually carried an empire across 2 oceans? If this voyage gripped you, subscribe and ring the bell so you don't miss the next passage. Share this with the friend who still thinks the age of sail smelled like perfume and heroism. Then tell me in the comments, would you sign on for a month's pay, knowing one storm, one splinter, one order shouted at the wrong moment could be the last thing you ever hear?